I play a lot of Ultrakill, and I've recently noticed a lot of Ultrakill players suck some stinky butt. So here's my little tutorial on how to get good. But before we get good, we have to answer one question. What the fuck does it mean to get good at Ultrakill? Well, sorry to bust your balls and break your illusion here, but there is no real way to be good at Ultrakill. So what, is that it? Video over? Well, no. You can't be good at Ultrakill, but you can be good at Ultrakill. I know what you're probably thinking, what does that sentence even mean? Ultrakill is a leaderboard for literally everything. There's a leaderboard for the Cybergrind, there's a leaderboard for every single level in the game, and there's also a leaderboard for how much time Ultrakill players have spent talking to women. Well, now you have two options. You could take the blue pill and deal with the fact that Ultrakill is too complicated and your times fucking suck, or you can take the red pill and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. I guess it's less of a rabbit hole and more of a skill tree, but the point still stands. If you're still watching, I assume you've consumed the red pill, and that's good because that was actually Adderall.
Oh my god, bro.
And you're going to be needing a whole lot more of that to continue. You can't be good at Ultrakill because there is no objective best player, so what you have to do instead is figure out what you want to be the best at. Now look, I'm not your dad, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. What I am here to tell you is how you can get good. So let's start with that. The first thing that you gotta do is just lose every other ounce of knowledge that you have from any other first-person shooter. See, Ultrakill isn't a first-person shooter, it's a movement game where you get the pleasure of blowing people up. The biggest problem is when I see a new player playing the game, they think they could just stand still and hold left click and all be handy dandy if they throw in a dash every 5 seconds. I'm sorry to break it to you, pal. That's not how the game works. When you're playing Ultrakill, you're not just fighting the enemies on the screen, you're actively at war with your keyboard. So now you know you need to move, but you're probably wondering, how do I move? Well, that's kind of a loaded question. If you look at every single gun that's in Ultrakill, you're left with about 1,000 different forms of movement. The movement allows you to do things like clear giant gaps and get into hard to reach places. Like, look, I can show you how to do each and every single one of these movement techs, but there's about 1,000 of them and this video is going to be 6 hours long. No one wants that. So here's your homework. What you gotta do is learn application. For example, let's say there's a situation where you need to slide, but you jump instead. Well, you're fucking dead. Or let's say you need to hit a dash jump over this ledge, but then you accidentally only press shift and don't press the space bar, and you're fucking dead. Look, there's so much novelty and nuance in all of this tech. Don't even ask me what the difference between a slide jump and a dive is, because there pretty much isn't one. But there are situations where you're going to need to dive instead of slide jump, and there's situations where you're going to need to slide jump instead of dive. And doing the correct thing in said situations is the biggest way that you can tell the difference between a good player and a bad player. So just take a few minutes, hit up the sandbox, and practice. You can learn all the tech from this website called UltraDocs. Highly recommend it. It's kind of awesome, albeit a little outdated. At this point, you probably think that you're hot shit. Maybe you even closed the video and went to play the game and realized that you still suck. And that's because your training is not yet complete. Sure, movement is cool, it's fun, it's flashy, but it's not what gets the job done. What you need to do is you need to learn how to murder. See, despite what it says on the poster, blood is not fuel. Adderall is fuel, and it's time to re-up for this next part. Look, you need to learn how to kill, and how to kill fast. I've developed a metric called FPS, or filth per second. When you first start playing the game, you average around 1 FPS. It's just you and your revolver, and you probably don't really know how to use it. So you're not really killing too many filth here. Once you've moved up the ladder into stage 2 Ultrakill player, you're probably going to start averaging around 5 FPS. This is when you learn how to fully take advantage of your explosives, allowing you to clear rooms at a much faster pace. Now we advance into 10 FPS. This really only happens when you unlock the saw blade launcher because it's insanely good for room clears. You have zero reason to not be using it. If we just skip a few stages and reach the final stage, this is when you hit the 100 FPS limit. This is when you start to move so fast, you begin to lose your entire sense of self. This is when you have fully mastered everything from the previous stages, and you have also discovered nuclear warfare. Yeah, you can kind of forget everything from before. These nukes are just OP. If you're ever in a situation where you don't know how to get out of, you can just drop a nuke and your worries are over. And it's not even that hard to do. All you gotta do is core eject with a shotgun, switch to the malicious rail cannon, and you dropped a nuke. I know, it's crazy, and it's also awesome. You can blow up like so many enemies within the drop of a hat. But there are some times where FPS doesn't really matter. See, not every enemy is a low-level filth. Some enemies can't be killed with a nuke. In fact, nuking will just waste your time. There's a lot of enemies in the game that are a lot more healthy and require more than just a few hits to kill. This makes things like room clears a lot harder. And because of the variation of these enemies and their specific strengths and weaknesses, they're a lot harder to kill. I'm not going to go over every single enemy that can't be killed with a nuke, and that's because I, again, do not want this video to be 6 hours long. But what I can do is tell you some technique that you can use to start killing enemies faster. Let's take this big guy right here, Maurice. Maurice is impervious to rockets. They just bounce right off him, no matter what you do. You can shoot a million at this guy and they just all bounce right off his fat ass. But Maurice is very susceptible to shotgun damage. In fact, he's a solid 2-shot if you get close enough. So all you gotta do is just throw a saw down and then shoot him twice in the face and he's dead. On the other hand, we have Cerberus. Cerberus here is kind of the opposite of Maurice, and he also has abs. But Cerberus here is very susceptible to rocket damage, and more specifically, he's very susceptible to cannonball damage. All you gotta do is right-click with the cannonball launcher, shoot a cannonball, parry the cannonball, bro is dead. There are quick and easy kills like this for pretty much every single late stage enemy in the game, and a lot of them are pretty easy to pull off if you know what you're doing. But once you learn these, you're gonna be able to plow through enemies like there's no tomorrow. Or you could just use soap. Soap is kind of OP. The last thing that we have to talk about for you to be good at the game is boss kills. Now sure, there are a lot of enemies who start off as bosses and then later turn into regular enemies, but we're not talking about those. But what if I were to tell you don't have to learn some special unique kill for each boss, but there is a single technique that works on almost every single layer boss. No, you don't have to sell your soul to Ultrakill Satan. This is dead coin. Basically, every single time that you hit this coin, it stores more damage in the coin, so when you hit an enemy with it, it does a fuck ton of damage. Coins are easily the most exploitable thing in all of Ultrakill, and learning to abuse them is what really makes you good. I know I've said that about 30 times in this video, but this one counts extra. Basically, what you have to do to dead coin is start a coin and then punch it 4 times. And after you've beaten it thoroughly, you have to shoot the coin and then really quickly throw out another coin. And once you've done that, you just have to punch the coin 1 more time into whichever enemy you're fighting, and then probably a few more times to finish the job. And sure, this doesn't work on every single boss, but learning how to dead coin is really going to help you learn how to kill these fuckers fast. Look, I'm not expecting you to watch this video and become an Ultrakill legend. In fact, you probably just wasted the past 8 minutes when you could have been spending it playing Ultrakill. But the thing about Ultrakill is there is an ever-growing skill ceiling, which is something you only really see in a multiplayer competitive game. I mean, Ultrakill is the single largest player base out of any game on speedrun.com. Look, I know at the beginning of this video I said that there is no definitive way to be good at Ultrakill, and that's true, but that doesn't mean you can't get better. So pick a category and start playing it. You probably didn't learn too much from this video besides the absolute basics. But hopefully this is a good starting point, an inspiration for you to actually start playing the game a little bit more seriously than just beating it one time and calling it a day. I genuinely believe that Ultrakill is the most replayability out of any single player game ever. I mean, the base campaign takes 15 hours to beat, and I have over 800 hours in the game. I'm no mathematician, but that's a lot of time I spent replaying this game. And hopefully this video has made you want to replay the game as much as I have. Or maybe you have a life or something, but honestly that's kind of lame. But if you have any advice for young, budding Ultrakill players, leave it in the comments below. And if you're interested in going any more deeper down the Ultrakill speedrun rabbit hole, I highly recommend you come out to the streams that I do. I just speedrun the game. And also join the Ultrakill speedrun Discord. It's helped me a lot more than pretty much anything. The people in there are pretty chill. I can't really say anything for the Cybergrind because I don't play it that much, but you know, it's probably fun too. But yeah, if you like the video, please subscribe, and that's all I really have for right now. See you guys next time.